welcome to a very special review from Hyper Rabbit Power Go. We're doing a non-spoiler. Non-spoiler, no spoilers, not talking about spoilers, for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, the final concluding chapter of the Skywalker saga.
And apparently of trilogies in the Star Wars universe in general.
That's true. I heard about that.
Yeah, that was news. We'll talk about that on Friday, most likely. Yeah, this is a very special movie and a very special time.
Feels like an event.
It does feel like an event. It's the end of an era, some would say. I mean, technically it is the end of an era.
Can an era count as 4 years from 2015 to 2019? The end of an era?
According to Friends, is any significant moment in time.
Really?
So it could be like 5 minutes.
According to the show Friends?
According to the show Friends.
Or in our case, 42 years.
42 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
From 1977's A New Hope.
You discovered it when you were...
I was, it was 97, so it was 20 years into the whole thing, which is kind of crazy. Now I think about it, it's like, 42 years, and I'm 32. Wow. Yeah. I'm not that far off from it. And 32 years, I'm like 87. So 10 years after A New Hope came out.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
Damn, we're getting old.
I'm 32.
Fuck, man.
32
also, yeah. This is
I'm
crazy.
about to be 36 in a few months.
Oh, that's a good year.
It's a good year.
Is it?
Is
it?
We'll find out.
I got one foot in the grave, homies.
1 year closer to 69, bro. Nice.
So we went to a press screening this morning. A lot of people got to go to the premiere last night, which looked really cool and a lot of fun. I had a chance to see it twice. I went at 10 in the Yeah, that's right. I went at 10 in the morning. I took a friend of mine, and then I was your plus one for the 2 o'clock.
Say it correctly. It's date.
My date. My hot date. My hot date. I mean, look at this loud shirt.
Look at this loud shirt. I wore my finest shirt.
Just for me.
Just for Adam.
And I just dressed like trash, so it's fine. So got to see it twice. I was so jazzed walking in this. I'm always excited for a Star Wars movie. There's no way around it. Who isn't?
Right. It feels electric.
If you like Star Wars, you don't even have to love Star Wars. Just if you like Star Wars. People are always going to be electric whenever a new movie comes out, whether it's a spin-off or a part of the main sort of continuity or whatever. So I was really looking forward to going, and I'm glad I got to see it twice. Because the first time I saw it, I was not sure how I felt about it, and then watching the second time, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm glad I watched it twice because all
your thoughts are solidified.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing about the internet. With a lot of these big movies, you're expected to immediately have your complete
5 minutes later,
and that's rare when that happens.
Yeah,
I know.
It's super rare. I feel like it's happened with me with a lot of like the MCU Marvel movies of the past couple of years. You watch it one time and I'm like, yes, I know how I personally feel about this material.
Right.
I'm good to go. I'm ready to go. Right. I feel like that when I saw like Coco for the first time. It's like, how could you not? Like those movies that will happen occasionally. The first time we watched Creed, I was like, I got, you know how you feel. But even with those movies, I have really enjoyed going back and revisiting them.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? And that's part of, and Star Wars especially, I think, benefits from, first of all, this feels like part 3, but it also feels like part 9. So it's like doing both at the same time. And I think it will benefit, in my opinion, from not just rewatching it, but like taking it in as a whole. So this is a special movie that exists on a couple different levels. Again, just like Avengers Endgame. Endgame was the final, it's the ending of the Infinity Saga, other than the epilogue that is Spider-Man Far From Home. But it works as its own movie, but it also works as Infinity War Part 2, right? Thanos Part 2, but it also works as Part 21 or whatever it was of like the whole thing. 22.
Right.
So thank you. So like I think this movie will benefit from people watching it in the theater one time, however you feel is how you feel, but then also like, okay, now go home and kind of plug it in episodes 7, 8, and 9, like plug it into that. And not just that, but episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, and not just that, but like gotta go all the way to those crappy prequels and go, okay, now it's kind of part 9 of those too.
I mean, it is.
So I'm glad that you also did get to see it twice, so that some of those feelings could be solidified. How are you feeling right now after having seen it twice? And then Augustine and I will jump in.
After seeing it twice, there are definitely things about the movie that a lot of stuff really worked for me, and a lot of it is some of it's character stuff, some of it is like action beats, and then there's also on the flip side, there's a lot of things that didn't work for me. And the way I kind of equated it was, I kind of feel the same way I felt about Return of the Jedi. Like Return of the Jedi is, and okay, it's my least favorite of the original trilogy, but like I generally love those movies.
And it's hard to plug yourself into your headspace where you were the first time you saw that movie.
Yeah. Right.
But like Return of the Jedi does have things where if you're a little kid, and most people I feel like are exposed to these movies when they're little kids, or even if you're in your 20s or whatever, you see A New Hope, you see Empire Strikes Back, you're like, okay, all right.
I dig it.
And depending on how much pop culture has told you, you either know or don't know that Darth Vader is in fact Luke Skywalker's dad. So
spoiler alert.
Yeah, so like you go into Return.
You said no spoilers, Hector.
You go into Return of the Jedi and you're like,
again, it's Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
The Jedi.
Especially that 3-year period. We're talking about it in the car on the way over from 1980 to 1983. Fans were like, "Oh, Darth Vader was lying.
Yeah,
he's full of shit.
Yeah,
he's not Luke's dad. He was lying. So let's find out in this next movie in part 3." And then that one has a bunch of revelations. And what was the feeling? I think people generally like that movie, but it's rare when I find a person that they're like, "That's my favorite one. Return of the Jedi. That's the best one." People say Empire's the best. Normally, people say they love New Hope the most. So like, I get that. I get that feeling of like, oh, okay, there was a lot of revelations in this movie that made you go, okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it in the spoiler talk because there's a bigger conversation.
It is a little bit of a tricky movie to talk about when you're trying to avoid talking about spoilers, because a lot of the stuff that like didn't really vibe for me is spoiler related. But if there's anything that I can talk about that's non-spoiler related that I thought didn't completely work for me, big thing for me was the editing and the pacing.
Yeah.
I feel like the movie... I feel like the rocket leaves the station and it never like...
Dude.
It's like... It kind of feels a little bit like being on Star Wars...
Star Tours, yeah.
It starts and it just goes and it never ends. And you get to the end, you're like... Whew, holy crap.
Martin Scorsese said something about this type of cinema. What type of... This is like a ride. Yeah, he talked about that stuff.
So, before the movie, Hector's girlfriend, she's like, I'm just going to go pee. Maybe I'll go pee mid-movie, whatever. Adam's like, you're not going to have any time.
And I wasn't kidding.
Yeah, because I told her, I was like, oh, Abby, just ask Adam. Like, he saw it this morning. He'll know when the best time to go pee is. And Adam was like... No.
There ain't no time, brother.
No.
Do your peeing before.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good tip. Pee before you watch it.
And also, that doesn't, like, I don't think the movie's, like, the movie to me doesn't feel long. It's also not that long.
Right.
Not that it's not long. It's like 2 hours and 20-ish minutes. Considered on the longer side, but it's not like 3 hours or anything like that.
Doesn't feel like that.
But there really is like no time or no perfect moment to go to the bathroom. So, but anyway, so I think that the biggest thing for me is like the pacing.
That being said, with that pacing, did you ever feel bored? Was there ever a moment where you were just like, where you
definitely not. Okay. Definitely there was no moment where I was bored or any moment where I was like, okay, this could. I don't really feel like there's a lot in this movie that you could cut out to make it go even quicker. But for me, I think it's things that could have been like rewritten or like just written differently for the movie to work a little bit better for me.
Given some moments to breathe.
Yeah, breathing room.
Yeah,
breathing room. Even because we talked about Avengers Endgame, it's 3 hours long, and it also does move at a really quick pace. But there are moments where it like. It
moments feel earned.
The opening of the movie, it's just like bum 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 bum. 5 years later,
sad.
We breathe.
Yep.
Right.
This movie, of all the Star Wars movies, and there's a lot of Star Wars movies that fucking take long breaths.
Yeah.
And this one did not do that. This one is just like just chugging along.
It really just kept going.
And if you're looking for that, then this is for you.
At first, I was thinking like, okay, cool, they're gonna get to a certain point where this is going to slow down.
Yeah, you turn to me, you're like, this thing is moving.
Yeah, and I was trying to tell you that for like 20 minutes, and it just kept going. I was going to mention Hector, this thing's just, dude, we're just going. Like, there's no like, and then this, and then that, and then that. It's just, holy crap. JJ just decided to freaking full speed ahead, 100 miles an hour.
You full on jump into a story. I don't know how much time has passed since the last one.
Right.
It's about a year.
It's about a year. It feels like that. It feels like stuff has happened. I found it to be real fun and exciting, and in moments really thrilling, and in moments really.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that I benefited from just recently rewatching The Force Awakens, and I feel like a lot of The Force Awakens has the same issues, except for there is moments in Force Awakens where like they get on the ship with Han, and then he turns around and tells them it's true, all of it. But then like Kanja Club shows up and the Rathars, and it keeps going. So I want to watch it again to see if the editing is, you having seen it twice, I'm like, I wonder if there's stuff like you're saying that could have been sort of done differently to just make it flow maybe a little bit better. There were some awkward moments for me.
Yeah,
there were some moments where I was like, oh, that was kind of awkward, I guess. I don't know if that's a word, but then like it's that thing of trying to figure out
something's like a little off.
Something's a little off. I liked all the performances. I thought they were all great.
Oh, I don't have any performance issues.
Yeah, no
none.
Performance issues.
None.
No performance issues whatsoever.
Call
this
your
model
doctors.
was oiled well.
If this issue persists, call your doctors.
Yeah,
if it's more than 6 hours.
4 hymns for sure.
If you have a 3-hour erection while watching this movie,
this movie
there's something wrong with your collar doctor.
Sure.
Although, pretty horny movie. Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Was it though?
No, but just compared to like PG and G sort of Star Wars stuff, it was there was some great emotion in it. Special effects wise, great. There wasn't anything that I was.
There was a few shots where I was like, oh, that compositing's bad, but it was just like
trying
one
to remember.
Shots.
I don't again without giving anything away.
Sure.
I felt like I was pretty much taken along for it in terms of effects. Music was wonderful. I especially love some stuff that John Williams did towards the end without saying where and when. But there were some moments where I was like, ooh, chills. Chills.
Were you sobbing at a certain point? Because
I was moved to.
You were breathing pretty hard.
I don't know if tears came down, but I was feeling it.
Yeah, I could tell.
There were huge emotional highs in this.
Right.
I think on the same level of the emotional highs attempted and achieved in like The Last Jedi. I feel like it's comparable, but again, it's a lot of it's what you bring to the movie, because I was sitting there going, this is Star Wars Part 9.
Yeah.
This is from 1977 to now. Like so you cannot help but feel those nostalgia trips when they're like remember this, and you're like, shit, that is cool.
Right.
That's important. Like that, that is meaningful to me. That comes with a lot of memories and a lot of good emotional baggage, and couldn't help but feeling like that.
One thing that I noticed that I said to myself in my head as soon as this movie started happening, because it did, like you said, Hector, feel like the last movie, and I'm just like, dang, like we are in a completely different universe at this point.
That's what's
cool.
You
know, it's just like we are not in that era of a little bratty kid on a moisture farm anymore.
Right.
We're like in a crazy, convoluted.
We have no idea what's going to happen next.
No idea what's going to happen next. To say that though, I do feel like the lightsaber battles were fresh because they felt aggressive. They felt like there was stakes behind them.
They're tied into the emotion of the characters. Right. Yeah, I agree.
More so than the prequels, except for the final battle with Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Right. Because that one's different. That one's in a whole different category. The blaster battles and the space battles were on point as well. I think that they took special care in making them feel in the sound design and in the VFX, making them feel like they're like they have stakes. Like
impactful.
People are blowing up. Like when you saw this in the trailers, when they're in the desert and they're on those things, and then explosions start happening, you're like, "Fuck, these are dangerous."
Yeah,
like
there's weight.
And you never really feel that in other places, though. As soon as explosions start happening in other movies, characters just run straight through them. You're just like, okay, cool, whatever. They did a really good job of making sure all that stuff stuck. Really.
Yeah.
It did. I think for me, it suffered a little bit in, again, the pacing, and also some of the things that we can only really discuss in the spoiler
plot
chat.
stuff.
Really,
plot stuff. That was my biggest. My biggest frustration.
Yeah.
But I was talking to these guys. I will say that, as frustrated as I am, I have been doing kind of a deep dive in like a lot of Star Wars expanded universe stuff of the past 40 years. Yeah. And how do I put this lightly? So much of it is real fucking dumb, and that's fine. Yeah. And I love a lot of that stuff. But it does feel like it feels like a lot of the stuff that I take issue with is just the filmmakers going, well, yeah, that's Star Wars, and me going, yeah, you're right, but I don't necessarily like it. I'm like, yes, touche, yeah, good callback, but I think it's dumb, and I think plot wise I would have. I don't know. It's impossible. You can't see an alternate universe, but would I have liked a different direction plot-wise with some stuff coming off of The Last Jedi, which is still my favorite Star Wars movie? Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But this is what we got, and it feels final. And I thought that they did a good job overall. And maybe we should probably wrap up this non-spoiler talk.
We're doing a spoiler review. Just kidding, non-spoiler.
Just to sum up for me, I still would put it recently with Last Jedi, then this one, then Force Awakens. I think that it overall is a stronger entry. Yes, I think it's overall a stronger entry than Force Awakens, just because it has more sort of like, it's less like of a setup and like, and here we go. And it's more like, and we're done. And I feel like I don't know if they stuck the landing, but like they didn't crash and burn it.
No.
I don't think so.
No. So
whatsoever, I would say that this is a solid entry into the Star Wars universe. I have also too been doing a deep dive, mainly more on like the minutia of the legend, like what different lightsabers mean, and like where are these characters and like basically
the mythos,
like chronologic like Sith and chronologic Jedi and like different techniques and stuff like that.
Cool.
So I've been doing more of a deep dive on that kind of stuff, and there's some stuff in there for those people, for people like me, and then there's stuff in there for people who just watch the movies and this is their universe. Like this is what they do, this is what they know, and this is comfortable. I feel like maybe those people who just watch the movies might be a little bit happier with this movie. People like me, I would say this movie is my least favorite
of the new three. Yeah.
Last Jedi being on top. Force Awakens, I liked it because it was a nostalgia fest. Like it was just like I can rewatch it and feel real good about like, oh man, that just feels good. Like the first time you see the Millennium Falcon flying in that movie, it's like the first time I saw Spider-Man, the first time I saw Iron Man flying in the Marvel movies. I got chills. It felt good. I felt like I was flying with them. So that kind of feeling that movie invoked in me, or those kind of feelings that movie got out of me, put it in second place.
Got it.
This one's probably third, but that's all for like spoiler talk. Like I can't really...
I feel like it's very similar to the classic OG trilogy. I feel like most people would be like, well, Empire's the best. It was the most daring. It was the one that pushed it the most. Then in New Hope, because I feel good. And then Return of the Jedi, it's fine. It's cool, but there's some stuff I didn't like in Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
My ranking is similar to yours. I like The Last Jedi a lot, and I like The Force Awakens a lot for very different reasons. So I kind of keep those more or less neck and neck, but like there's things I like about one movie more than the other, and things I like less. So it's like they're pretty balanced.
They're interchangeable.
And that's kind of how A New Hope and an Empire are for me. There are things about Empire that like I love and that I think does better than A New Hope. But there's also things that New Hope just like hits like crescendos perfectly. But like I really like both. And then there's Return of the Jedi, and that's where this movie kind of falls. It's like it's below them, but I still like it.
Not to say it's a bad movie either.
I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't think it's a bad movie at all. It's mostly just like the choices that were made for some of the characters and some of the plot elements to push it forward and to like what's the word I'm looking for? Just sort of like motivate the intentions of things was like really weird to me. And we'll talk about it in the spoilers, but I do feel like the one thing that even though the original trilogy was like mapped out, it also has a lot of elements that were like not completely thought out before they were made.
Right.
But they made A New Hope, and A New Hope was like, oh, it's the one movie, and if we get to do a new one, then we'll write it.
Right.
With this, it was built to be a trilogy. So I guess I would have hoped that they would have had a plan that was a little bit more like, we're going from here to here and a little bit more thought out.
So stuff that happens in 9 is more sprinkled and seeded in 7 and 8.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah. And I feel like they had that, but the editing and the pacing, it's like they said, well, all this stuff works. How are we gonna crunch it down as much as we can? And they did that, and then the rocket started, and then you keep going. But it was also kind of a detriment, I would say. Not to make the movie unwatchable. It's still an enjoyable movie, but like we said before, it could have.
When I go back and I marathon all 9 movies, I know that once I get from episode 1 to 9, it will be. I think I will generally feel very fulfilled as a Star Wars fan.
Agreed.
So overall, in the whole franchise, you feel like this is a fitting conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, there are things that I would have done differently, but like I'm not the one making the movie.
Right.
Like I would have done things differently for certain elements, but I think when you look at it as like the conclusion of one trilogy and the conclusion of an entire saga, I do feel like when the movie ends, I'm like, man, I feel pretty good about what most of this ended up.
Yeah. All right.
Especially with certain characters. But we'll talk about it in the spoiler review.
Yeah, for sure.
Let us know down in the comments what you thought. Please do not spoil it for anybody. Be respectful. We will have a spoiler review up on Friday, and then we can get all into the minutia and the spoilers and stuff. In the meantime, make sure you guys subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next review. Bye-bye.
May the Force be with you always.